Thank you all very, very much for being here tonight. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to make a fairly brief but succinct presentation on the draft comprehensive plan, the actual report document itself. You all have received a copy of the action items, which is the line item actions that we're proposing for recommendations. And we can go through those at the end of the presentation, kind of line by line, or clearly what I'd like to do is just get a set of emails from everybody on some of their comments, edits, and or new items if we want to go ahead and make some additional changes. So I'll just go right ahead and begin. What we're going to do, we're going to talk about this draft document. We're going to walk through the chapters, hit some of the high points, and then end on the actions on each specific chapter. Do not hesitate to interrupt anywhere in the presentation with any questions or comments or thoughts. Here we're looking at an enlargement of the front page. Of course, we'll have a new date and everything like this, but we decided to kind of depict Greenville with just kind of a myriad of images that look at historic components, new components, because the challenge always is you can never really pick 2 or 3 items to depict a community and everything. So Greenville has such a rich history. Here we're looking in at the table of contents. You can kind of take a look from a page standpoint down in the lower corners. This is in essence a spread view of 2 different pages. So we're looking at the table of contents. The chapters that are identified with a letter, A, B, C, and D, those are in essence the chapters that help to define some existing conditions, to help to define the vision that we solicited through the public engagement component. And the chapters that are labeled under numbers, those are the elements of the comprehensive plan, i.e. chapter 1's future land use, 2's park trails, open space, 3, neighborhood housing, downtown, 4, mobility, infrastructure. Why is infrastructure in here twice? That's not supposed to be there because I think number 7 is public facilities. So that's a good item. I'm glad we caught that. Getting into chapter A, introduction. Here we're talking about what is a comprehensive plan. We talk about plan implementation, planning process, how to use the plan, the legal basis for planning in Texas. Also, you'll note the little circle down below there next to number 2. I've went in and put that in anytime I see something that needs a little cleanup. Here we have a label for what this image is, that it's kind of overlapping with the photograph. So we got to fix that. Here we are talking a little bit about what a comprehensive plan is, talk about the planning process. We've identified all the different CPAC meetings, our monthly meetings, talked about the 3 phases here and some of the public events and virtual rooms that we've utilized during the process. Community profile, chapter B, talks about, again, defining existing plans, the history of the community. We talk about COVID-19 and how that's kind of been a component that we've had to deal with as far as continue working on the project, the different methods for public engagement. We talk about the market analysis is a significant part of in this chapter, along with the demographics. And again, you're seeing that I'm just kind of hitting some of the random pages throughout each chapter. Here we're looking at a timeline of Greenville itself. We've picked several big events within the community, highlighted those with a little bit of text and kind of a little graphic component that moves it from inception to today. A couple circles on here. I found a couple misspellings that we need to fix, so that'll be something we do. Greenville's had such a rich history. We want to make sure that we very accurately describe that. In the visioning chapter, chapter C, this goes through, of course, all the public engagement processes, talks about what the intent of that meeting was, talks about the online surveys, talks about the virtual public meeting room, and all those components that help us solicit input toward the creation of the plan. Here we have the vision statement early on in that chapter. We desire to build a community on hometown values, supporting a rich heritage of diverse and open neighborhoods. We will achieve our dreams of a vibrant downtown, friendly and safe streets, quality education, and access to quality jobs by providing good, cost-effective services where families choose to live, grow, and prosper. So a nice, important page for our vision statement. We then defined what those themes were. We had 12 different themes that were critical toward identifying a set of goals for the comprehensive plan. Those goals are listed on the adjoining page, 24 of those. We then have a small page or two talking about the public meetings and the workshops. This was public meeting number 1. We had actually an open house at the beginning of that. We talk about our website, our project logo, greenville-forward.com, a little graphic of that website. We show some imagery from the virtual public meeting room and the importance of getting input through this on a 24/7 process, knowing that this was kind of one of the tools that we used during the COVID-19 components to allow citizens to give us input from home and everything. The comprehensive resilient city. This is a chapter that is going into all comp plans these days. And it's really just talking about that communities need to plan for those potential emergencies, both natural and sometimes man-made, to be able to have a safety plan, a resiliency plan for making sure that we can overcome and come back strong. So we just have, I think it's about altogether about 7 pages in that chapter, but a very important thing to make sure that as people look at us as citizens and people who are involved in Greenville, that we understand that resiliency is a key component. Here we are in the first element of the comp plan, future land use, chapter 1. Every chapter starts off in the elements very similar, to where we have goals and policy statements. We then go into introduction and approach of how we then came up with our recommendations and actions toward the end of each chapter. So each chapter in the elements has a very, very similar process. Here we've defined the goals and policy statements. I'm not going to read these, but you can see they talk about here under land use. It's a regional center to quality of life, productive land use of developed land, protection of natural areas, of course, housing variety that allows a wide variety of citizens to live, both executive housing and larger estate type of homes, all the way down to a whole range of multifamily patio homes and everything. So we can have a whole variety of citizens living and helping to make our economy diverse. We talk about economic growth. We also talk about Majors Airport or Majors Field and the importance of L3 and other supporting uses in that area being important toward economic development. We have a series of land use types for the city-wide plan. We show some visual images of what these different residential types are in a prototypical manner. We actually have 3 pages of these. I'm not going to show you all of them here. And then the future land use map. This is the preferred land use map. This is actually a pull-out page. This is an 11 by 17 that pulls out of the report. So it's kind of an expanded page. It's just 1 page number, but it's expanded. It shows future land uses. It identifies flood corridors. This is actually the map that you've seen before. We also then over here have a series of data for acreages and percentages as you look at the overall boundary of the city of Greenville and where those are. We also, within this chapter, we have a set of areas that talk about recommended growth areas. Specific areas, we know that there's opportunity for either redevelopment or new development. We've kind of defined them, a series of numbers and graphically shown them. And then within this chapter, we say a little bit about each of those areas and the opportunity that they present for the community. And again, this, you'll note, is geographically distributed, centrally located within the community, number 1, 2, 5, and 3. But then you'll also note that there's opportunities all the way up north along number 6, all the way down to number 9 near Majors Field and everything. So a series of different areas where the community can focus implementation opportunities. Also, you note, found a couple of images here that I'm not too happy with. Those will be replaced. And then at the end, again, of each chapter, each of the elements, you'll have a table that identifies the recommendations or the actions. Here within the future land use, we've got 20 different ones identified. They're specifically identified under key action. You then have, they're defined by an action type. Is this a planning component? Is it regulation based? Is there a program that needs to be established? Is there some capital cost that it is in essence about? Is it about outreach and engagement? So we've identified the most important one. We've given timeframes, the short, mid, or long and ongoing, and then a responsible element, or a responsible agent. Who is the department that is most in the lead in that item, and any partnerships. So this is something that would be, this was in the email that Latora and we sent out. It would be worthy of everybody to going through that. And if you have any concerns, comments on any of the items there, any of the data that were, time frames, whatever, would love for your specific comment on that. And if you think we've left some things out, we would appreciate.
Well, you've got a 21 down there at the bottom, Rick, that's blank.
Yeah, I do. I think I have, in fact, I think this one went all the way to 25, but I think it was just blanks.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm sorry. And this is actually an enlargement here on a PowerPoint slide, just because I wanted to try to get it as large as possible, because it's a little bit small on the text page. Also, just FYI, on the text page, when we put this in the document, we put it in and it's got white text and black text, and I think it's really challenging to read. So I think we're probably going to change it all over to black text. I think it just makes it easier to read. So you'll see that if you'll note those, if Latora sent out any of the page documents. Here we are in chapter 2, park trails, I should say park trail and open space. Again, the same processes of goals, policy statements, introduction, approach. This chapter, which I'm very, very pleased, we got a great deal of input from the city's parks department. They assisted us in coming up with the goals and everything, giving us some specifics of where they're at in their planning process and development process. So I feel real strong that we've got some good things here that they'll be very happy with. We identified all the existing parks within the community, have some good photographs, talked about them. I think we have 4 or 5 pages of that. We then went into a series of recommendations. Here we're talking about a trail system within the community, and we have 2 different loops. We have a north side loop that goes from downtown up along some of the northern neighborhoods. And of course, this trail could be an on-street trail, such as just a very simple sidewalk, or it could be an off-trail, an off-road trail. But most of these are currently would be proposed on street or on the sidewalk. So we have a north side trail. We have a midtown trail here that's a very nice area that kind of encompasses the midtown. And then we have a sports park trail to where that would link your major active sports park into those other two trails. So a nice way to slowly allow you the opportunity to build a network. And literally you could build 3 or 4 blocks of sidewalk and consider that a phase of a loop. So a nice way to look at doing some parks, or I'm sorry, some trails that would then connect to both schools and parks. That's the big part of what that loop system does. Here we have the park, trail, and open space actions. And I can tell you that about 90% of all these came from the Parks Department. Really happy with that, good input and everything. Hopefully, Latoro, we might want to make sure that they have a look and make sure that they like the short, how we have arranged them from a time frame standpoint. So that'll be a good thing to do here before we update and everything. Next chapter, we go to neighborhoods, housing, and civic design. Again, kind of talking about neighborhood units, housing, keeping quality housing, keeping quality neighborhood, and a few components talking about city design, civic design, have a set of goals and policy statements talking about identifying neighborhood priorities, citizens as a valuable resource, public civic space, investment, diverse housing, again, diversity in housing types, sizes of housing for renter or purchase and everything, and walkable neighborhoods. Very, very important that we have a discussion about walkable neighborhoods. We talk about creating lasting value within communities. And again, it's really talking about these bulleted items over there on page 138, quality public space, creating pedestrian walkability for better health and allowing citizens to get out and families to get out and walk and ride. An opportunity for focus on infill development, always a good thing to do because the infrastructure cost is going to be better, lower. We talk about lessening long infrastructure systems expansions if possible. We talk about something that sometimes this is a challenge, but density is a positive thing in an area of creating lasting value. Of course, it has to be done properly, but a modest amount of density is good for neighborhoods. It's, you know, in essence, you want all density, different sizes and density numbers to be compact and be within its own unit and everything. So, and then distributed throughout the community. Live, work, play developments, focusing on lower energy solutions, family-oriented developments, preserve environmental areas, and of course, civic and spiritual buildings should be of exceptional design and everything. So, because they're very important within the community. We then go into a series of action items as it relates to neighborhoods, housing, and civic design. I think we end on 20 here also. Again, very supportive. A lot of these items are based around quality planning and quality design, a little bit of regulation and everything, a lot of community development focused items here. So this will keep Latara busy and everything like this. I know she's happy there. So good items, but really just can relate to code and also can relate also to making sure that the changes that you all make to your development code aligns with the comprehensive plan. Downtown Greenville, chapter number 4, great image. This was fantastic. I wish I could have attended this. I thank you all for taking these great photos. Al, do you know about what event this was taken and how many years ago?
Oh, I would think that was probably last year or the year before, and that might have been the Bob Wills Festival.
Just a fantastic image. You can't have a better image that talks about a community coming together and celebrating downtown. So this is really just a fabulous image. Neat. I'm glad you guys had this. So again, the downtown chapter, we talk about goals and policies, the approach that we use to develop this, the land use types, some very brief but concise goals and policy statements, growing downtown through quality design. Of course, in the downtown area, you want these types of activities and events that draw everybody from the community down. We need to improve the north-south mobility in and around downtown. There's a little bit of challenges there, but as we have opportunities, we need to work with that. And of course, parking. We clearly have heard from a lot of people, and we totally agree. There needs to be more available quality public parking. When we start to look at land use types and facilities for a downtown plan, as it relates to your comp plan, clearly an urban multifamily type of residential land use is something nice, something in the range of 12 to 30 DUs. There isn't anything really specific to that, but again, density is a positive thing in a downtown environment. Clearly, you want retail renovation to happen at the ground floor, as much active commercial development downtown with tables and chairs outside. If it's a restaurant type of environment, or ice cream cones or something is good. And clearly you want a lot of glass. You want to be able to see into those shops and get those opportunities for people to engage in and out. Public parks are quite important also. Public parks are a stimulus that downtowns can do to help create added real estate value, which then affects the adjacent edges to those public parks. We talk about surface parking and the need for that. We talk about street trees, and that the importance of street trees are that they provide shade, they provide greenery, but they don't have to be extremely close together. Sometimes up to 50 foot, 60 foot on centers help to provide just enough shade to allow pedestrians to move safely. And then enhanced crosswalk paving is very nice. It provides that clear understanding of where pedestrians cross the street, and also adds kind of that historic touch of what a downtown is. This sheet, which is, and again, I'm just going to call it your downtown master plan, but again, it's an element of the comprehensive plan. This was the final scenario and the changing of that scenario that everybody we ended up on. The components that really are included is the 2 new opportunities for surface parking to be to have nice lots, and then to have specific signage along Lee Street and others to let people know how to get to those parking lots. There could be some additional street trees that would connect that parking back to Lee if you wanted. You can see the enhanced pedestrian intersections. Those might be the intersections of where there could be some brick crosswalks put in all due time. We're also showing an opportunity for some urban multifamily housing to go in downtown, and that would be adjacent to this new potential proposed park, which is over near Development Services, where Latora offices. This is currently some land that the city owns. And if you remember, when we went through the scenario process, we had several that had numerous different parks. We've all kind of settled on this one, to where we're showing the concept within the downtown image here in one location, but of course it could happen in other locations. Al, if somebody came in and said, "Hey, we'd like to talk about doing something in the downtown area, could the city help facilitate making some type of open space?" Those are the types of discussions that you would like to have. So there isn't anything magic about this location, just the fact that the city owns that land where we're showing a park, and that it would be modestly cost effective to do that, and then would help provide economic stimulus to those adjacent parcels that are vacant. That's basically what we're trying to say here. And again, the historic railroad station over there, clearly you need to turn that into as much of an amenity as possible. some type of green space around it if possible, and connects into a nice bicycle loop system that could happen in latter years. So we talk about strengthening development efforts in the downtown. We talk about living downtown is very important. Many different development patterns. You can have fairly dense single family homes. You can have townhomes. You can have zero lot line homes, but the greater the density, the better, because you're getting more people there that need more services and want to walk about and buy things and try to bring new developments in the area. Wayfinding signage is very important for downtown. You know, these types of images of where parking is located and where the core of downtown is, you know, all of those types of things need to be defined, and that would be a short-term action item that could happen. We're also showing here some of the pedestrian improvements that are happening in the downtown. I think there was actually some vehicular accident that destroyed some of the existing pavement and some of the vertical walls down there. So we assisted with the city in providing just some very simple designs to try to get pedestrian amenities, to relocate some benches, some bollards, and a trash receptacle, and put in a pot kind of to allow some greenery and everything. And just a very simple, cost-effective way to show that we care about downtown and everything. And here are the action items for downtown. Altogether, there were 30. A whole range of different uses, everything revising the ordinance, the zoning ordinance for downtown, to new parking areas, wayfinding signage. So a whole series of different items, some short, some long, some midterm, and everything. Good partnerships in these areas, because TxDOT, of course, has ownership and regulation authority over numerous streets in the downtown. We talk about mobility, Chapter 5, a whole series of different opportunities to affect vehicular and pedestrian mobility in Greenville. A whole series of different sets of goals: expanding transportation, alternative truck routes, enhancing circulation, improve pedestrian connectivity, and develop a trail network. Here we're showing, remember we spoke at length about a road diet concept on Lee Street. We're showing this as just an opportunity to look at in the long term, and we've identified that in the long term numerous times within the report. But you have the opportunity to expand that public realm. You take one lane of traffic out, and then you take I think it's the southern edge, and you take the angled parking out and you put in parallel, and you have an extensive area to make 18 and 19-foot sidewalks adjacent to those shops, bring more chairs out and everything. The opportunity exists for that to happen in a long-term scenario, working with TxDOT. We have roughly 14 different action items to talk about, everything from protecting and working on Wesley Street to trying to limit some of the access and get a little bit more shared access into different shops and property owners, trying to get some cross access to happen along there so we can also limit the traffic there. So just a whole area of consolidating driveways and different actions related to transportation and mobility. Chapter on infrastructure, same different set of components to develop that infrastructure. Chapter, just to let everybody know, this really follows hand in hand with what the current city is doing from infrastructure. It's not taking any new tack or anything. It's all about prioritizing infrastructure where it's best utilized and everything. There wasn't a whole lot of development and text and imagery that we're able to, so that chapter I think is about 8 pages long. And hence we only have a kind of a modest set of action items for infrastructure. But as you can imagine, most of those items are capital costs as it relates, and most of those timeframes are ongoing. So that would, again, something just to look at, give us any input. There we are, chapter 7 is correct here. Public safety and facilities, everything on the city's side of what they own. A whole set of policy and goal statements as it relates to a level of service, efficiency, renovating existing facilities and buildings and everything. So a good set of goals. Again, there was a good amount of information that we were able to grab and utilize from the city. I appreciate that and everything. We have roughly 12 action items, short, long-term, and mid, of course. And then we go into the last chapter, which is implementation. And we basically here just summarize, we summarize the action items that are defined in each chapter and let everybody note. I'm not exactly sure where we got this photograph. We did have one from Greenville, but I noticed that it was way too pixelated. Does anybody know? Oh, I see here. Is this the groundbreaking in Greenville? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, Rick. If this is an image I sent you, this may be a placeholder.
Yeah, it could be, because I know we did have an image here several days earlier and it was just way too pixelated, so we had to change. So I think we might have changed that description there. Yeah. And then the last chapter is the appendix, where we have a whole set of different information as it related to the public input from meetings, from live meetings, all the way down to the online surveys and results, some of the psychographic profile information. These were I think it's the 10 different family groups that Tapestry defines the citizens within Greenville falling within. That's kind of was a part of the economic analysis. So we have roughly 15 to 18 pages here at the end that kind of define the appendix. And here we are at 256. I think that could be one of the last pages. And that concludes our brief overview of the report that, again, is roughly about 250 pages in its current draft form. Let me see if I can stop sharing here. Well, no, I guess this is okay. I'm still able to talk. How do I do this? Stop share. There we go. There we are. So that just kind of runs through the report. I think it's a very solid report in that it really documents the process that we've went through over the months. It talks about COVID in a very positive manner. It talks about Greenville in a very positive manner. I'll be real honest with you. And I think the thing that I would most like for the key 15 or so individuals here on our advisory committee is to read those action items and give us any comments of what you all think, if we left any out, if we're kind of making some a little bit more than they should be, if some need to go away or whatever. I'm just really open to all those different inputs, because we want this to be a useful plan for the community. We want this to be something that is extremely valuable in the short term. And then as growth and new development occurs, you then might have to tweak or adjust it as it gets, in the 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years long. That's about the real length of what they're valued for.
The one thing that jumped out at me, Rick,
yes.
Real quick, and maybe I missed it or I blinked, bike lanes. Are they incorporated in the trail section or over in chapter 5 in mobility?
They probably are, Al, that's a good question. They're probably touched on in both, I'll bet. But I'm going to write this down.
I didn't see a map or a proposed you know, where, like we had with the trails, I didn't see anything for bike lanes as you were running through it.
Yeah, we didn't define a specific set of streets that should have charros on them. Clearly, that's a very specific, detailed thing. Maybe we need to make sure that that's an action item that says the city should define some specific streets to do that. The only ones that we did is there in the downtown area that you saw. Yeah.
In some communities I've been in, it's been nothing more than a few chevrons along the curb and some signage. It doesn't have to be the green lane and it depends on road width and type of neighborhood too. So
yeah, you're exactly right. You know, all you have to do is just put up a small sign and put that charro or chevron on the roadway, and that's designated what streets are you would desire people to ride on. We all know people have that opportunity to ride on any lane they want, but they're a little safer.
I just didn't know if Parks had a bike master plan that they were working on, and you said you had a lot of interface with them.
I didn't see anything.
Okay.
Yeah, but I appreciate you mentioned that. Let me make sure. I know it's in both of those chapters, both mobility and parks, but I'll make sure that it's an action item to put together a team of people to give you some input on where those should be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Everybody else jump in.
One question I'd have for you all. And in the document, you'll have the images of the different scenarios, both citywide and downtown. And I think I'm specifically going to go to the downtown. I remember we had a few of the downtown scenarios that I'm just going to say were pretty robust. They had different things, kind of in a series in a fairly wide pattern of where they could go. And then I think we've shrunk down to what I think is just more more realistic. So does that all sound good? I mean,
yeah.
I think if I recall, that's kind of where we were. But you always have the opportunity to see the options, those options scenarios, and they're always there if something occurs that could be a real opportunity. So yeah.
Okay.
In the future land use section, there was something that talks about the East Caddo Creek Basin, north and east, referring to it being a large housing and housing support area. Is there something in the map right before that explains where that is? Because I'm not sure if most people will know what that means.
Okay. And Philip, that was in the land use chapter?
Yeah, that was out. It was in the future land use.
I think it was a slide that you had the future areas for development, the 9 of them or 10 of them.
Got you. Yeah. Now that if I'm correct, it was the East Caddo. I think that is a drainage way or a creek that is running to the south, and I think that's an area that in your large future land use plan, we're saying that there is a long-term opportunity there for significant single-family residential development. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just wanting to make sure that those terms are defined, because most people wouldn't just hear East Caddo Creek Basin and know exactly where we're talking about.
Good point. Let me make sure first off that those are that is graphically labeled on that plan, and then I'll look back into the actions to make sure that it's kind of linked into something there. Thank you. We're in process right now of kind of doing review scrub of things, and we're kind of catching some things just on our own, that, you know, some misspellings or some words and terms that really don't link very well. So we're kind of, as Latora and her staff members, they're going through the plan and giving us some nice succinct comments. We're adding our comments to that. And then if you all have any comments or edits, then all of a sudden we'll republish draft plan number 2, that I think will have some things tightened up a little bit here.
That sounds good.
From what I have heard from Latora and staff members is that we're tightening up the plan, we're kind of editing some components, and then we're wanting to get it in an adoption schedule to where it would go through P&Z, it would go through City Council, and the plan might be that we were able to achieve that here probably before in the April-May timetable, I think. Is that right, Latora?
Yes, preferably April, May-ish would be great.
Okay.
It probably would be beneficial to run it through no later than May, because the end of May we'll have a changeover on several council members, and they'll be asked to be coming cold to look at this and make comment on it.
Yeah. Al, that's probably one of the big things why I've heard that we're trying to get that done prior to that. Good point. Well, everybody, that kind of concludes the presentation for tonight. Basically, what I would say is, here over this coming weekend where it's going to be frigidly cold, if you want to sit down with those action items and just take a look at them and pencil any comments you might have toward changes and email those to Latora, and then she can send them our way, that would be just fantastic.
Is your draft in a PDF file, Rick?
It is.
I'm wondering if maybe you might be willing to send it out so we can compare the action items into the document and see if we can prove or find any things that jump out at us as well.
I think that sounds great.
If
The
Latora
only
can
thing
just send us an email with it.
Yeah. You know, the only thing I'd ask is, I think let's just try to keep it initially within our group.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's a draft.
Yeah. We will get that out, and then you can, as you go through pages and it's good, you can throw those into your fireplace or something and keep you warm this weekend.
Yeah, we'll all look at it electronically. Save it.
That's
for you.
right. That's right. Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, it's a pretty good sized document. We've specifically put the fonts at kind of a larger size. We've heard over the years that the larger is just better for use by everybody and everything. So I think it's a 12 font, so it's a kind of an easy read, pretty visual document and everything.
Okay.
We will get that out to you.
Did you go back and look at that slide to see where the East Caddo Basin was kind of located?
I haven't. I sure can.
Just a general area in town, because some of us can't even spell Caddo.
Okay.
I don't know if that was that big blue one on the west side of town, or.
Yes, that's exactly where it is. It was area number 9. It says East Caddo Creek Basin, north and east. So that must be, in fact, if I could change here.
If you could pop that back up, we could answer that question real quick.
Exactly. Are you all able to see my screen now here?
Yes.
If I can enlarge it a little bit even. Lucky. It's this area number 9.
Okay, that's between us and Caddo, which is, I think that's getting ready or primed for massive development invasion from the west anyway. So
Good.
We need to be prepared for that.
Yeah. Now, let me just ask you, is this Caddo Creek right here?
Anybody on that would know that?
Well, we'll check it. We'll check it. Yeah, we'll check it. We'll make sure that it is Caddo Creek, and we'll label it as such.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Also,
Or maybe just show the boundaries of the roads or whatever, because that's probably out around 1570 on one side of it that goes up and meets 380, I think.
I'm assuming that's right here.
Okay, I would.
Or I mean, we'll get a few roads on this.
Yeah.
It needs some roads.
also just
that would be a
number
little
9s
better
on
to
there.
find.
The one down by Majors Airport is also labeled number.
Got you.
That's the other number 9.
9.1.
9L and 9R.
Yeah, now it does sound like we're near the runway. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. Never a good thing to have 2 number 9s. Good. Good catch. Good catch. But yeah, good stuff and everything. I think we have a graphically appealing document. I think its action items are very doable. I think it has still put some motivation into the community for different areas. So all in all, I think we've really hit on kind of the broad umbrella that Al, that you and our whole committee and everybody has challenged us to coalesce something that really works for the community.
No, it's a very appealing document. I appreciate yours and your team and Latour's hard work and everybody on the committee, and it's coming together quite nicely.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we will. I'm probably going to work with Latour to get this PDF document out to you all, and then hopefully here early next month or something we can get together, maybe in person, and everybody can bring a list of items that they can give to us, and then we can make one more round of edits and then get into the adoption process.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, as long as the wind chill's above 30 degrees, we're good.
Yeah, if we can bring water to the meeting and it doesn't freeze, then we definitely need to meet in person.
Okay.
Well, everybody.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I have recorded it. So I will have this uploaded to the YouTube. I think Greenville has a YouTube now, and this will be, I'll send out a link. So even if you jumped in a little bit late, you can catch the beginning of the presentation. But we'll also load the presentation to the website as well, so everyone can have access to everything. So.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that. And anybody else have anything?
Yeah, thank you for all your work, Rick and Latour and everybody else. I got in a little bit late, so but thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right. Well, everyone enjoy your afternoon.
Stay warm.
Yeah.
Remember, Juice likes this weather, so does Atmos.
Large PDF coming your way. Take care.
All righty. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Latour.
Thank you all.